Young went on the radio this week and talked a lot about Trey Lance. I really appreciate how invested Steve is.
You know why?
He doesn't have to be.
You know why?
Why?
Because he was in a similar situation. It's just that the guy in front of him was the GOAT.
It's true. I mean, Steve doesn't have to look at himself as this Niners alumnus, but he is. And he's over here like coaching Trey, like on what his mentality and stuff. And he's also he's sizing Trey up. Because a lot of people are looking at Trey like, oh, this is Steve Young 2.0. Steve's like, are you? And to me, I think Steve is on the fence about it. I think Steve's because Steve to me is a top 10 quarterback of all time. That's a lofty comparison. So Steve's like, are you really going to be a top 10? I don't know. What he says is, first of all, the way he talks about Trey Lance reminds me of the way we all talked about a former Niners quarterback. And I'm wondering if you know what I'm talking about. This is what Steve says about him. Tell me if you've ever heard another quarterback described this way. He used to be on the Niners. Really smart. Really earnest. A people pleaser. Attention to detail off the charts. A perfectionist. Almost to a fault.
Alex Smith.
And to me, like, Alex Smith was a damn good quarterback who got put in a bad situation. Trey's in a good situation. And Trey's bigger, faster, stronger than Alex Smith. But the way Steve talks about Trey is the way we all used to talk about Alex Smith. And to me, that's interesting because, again, Alex Smith was a Pro Bowl quarterback, but not a Hall of Famer. And if Trey Lance ends up being Alex Smith, it'd be a disappointment. So what do you think of that comparison? And do you think that's sort of like the floor for Trey Lance?
Well, it better be the floor. I mean, the floor should be what they got out of Jimmy Garoppolo in terms of executing the offense. That's what it should be. And, you know, Jimmy Garoppolo is probably a little bit better version of Alex Smith in terms of what he can do on the field. Maybe not the attention to detail. Like, the one thing that Jimmy does that Alex Smith will never do is Jimmy will force passes. Alex Smith sometimes would turn down passes, and he wouldn't turn the ball over, but it would end in a 3-and-out. Like,
Jimmy's hardly a perfectionist. I'm going to put it that way.
Hardly. For sure. What I mean by that
is the pick and smiling on this, like, hey, we got to do better.
What I mean is, like, game manager, short throws, things like that. Like, Alex Smith would be gun shy sometimes during the games. Like, and that would be, and a little bit of that is perfectionist to a fault.
Yep.
Here's the thing that I'm going to say. I'm going to correlate this. I think Steve Young sees so much of his situation in Trey, and he wants to help him work through that. Now, obviously, let me slow this down so everybody doesn't say that I'm correlating the situations, because they're obviously different for many reasons. One, Joe Montana was the greatest quarterback of all time when he was playing. Jimmy Garoppolo is not that. Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy who won regular season football games, won a few playoff games, never won a Super Bowl. But Trey was the guy that was brought in. Bill Walsh said, Steve Young's the future. And that was there, right? Joe Montana goes down in 91, 92. That's why Steve Young has to play. Like, they didn't just force him over. This is the part that's a little bit lost when people make this comparison. Joe Montana was injured in 91, 92. You got to play Steve Young. Guess what Steve Young did when he played? He balled out, right? Yeah. Then when Montana's ready to go is when you say, we have to move on from you, because if we keep you and you're the backup, the noise will get too loud around Steve Young. Yeah. Trey Lance and Steve Young are in that situation the same way, where you have to move the guy that was in front of him first to keep the noise away from him. Now, the guy in front of Trey Lance is Jimmy Garoppolo. The guy in front of Steve Young was literally the most beloved quarterback in the history of the team. But I think that Steve Young wants this kid to succeed so badly because of the shit that he went through when he was trying to get there, and all the things he heard, and how many people said, you can't replace him with this guy. He's not going to play well. He's not going to be good. And they play similar style in terms of like running quarterback.
Let's come back to the comparison of Jimmy and Alex, because to me, they're similar in the sense that they're both essentially game managers. When they got to their prime, you can't throw the ball 40. They're game managers. But with Alex, he also figured out, like, I can't turn the ball over. And he wouldn't. And he also could move a little bit. And I'll take a game manager who's a little cautious, a perfectionist, who doesn't turn the ball over and can move, over Jimmy. Because Jimmy, he thinks he's Brett Favre. And the game manager who thinks he's Brett Favre kills me. Like, you can't trust him not to throw the pick. Jimmy, stop throwing the pick to the linebacker. That's just me. So if Trey just can be, turn the ball over less than Jimmy, and if he could be a cautious Alex Smith type quarterback with a deep ball, just hit right those, there. Like, you're a Pro Bowler right there.
Right. Like, hit those throws that Jimmy would never look at. right? Like those are designed open, but Jimmy. All right, and then another thing is kind of fair. I want to say this about Jimmy: if the first read's open, but Kittle's screaming down on the second read, you still throw to the first read. Like if you see the first read, you get rid of it, right? Like I hate when people post clips and they're like, "Look at this guy streaking down the field." That's not his progression. That's not his first progression. You throw to the first read. But yeah, I agree with you there. I still see a world where this year the 49ers throw the ball less than they did last year, but they will throw the ball more downfield and hit more of those big plays because of what Lance is. So yeah, Lance is going to have to be, at least in this first year, similar in that way to Alex Smith, just with a little bit more of deep ball in terms of, man, don't force that thing in there. Don't turn the ball over. Like, don't kill the drive, like that type of thing. He can't turn it over or have as many plays that are turnover worthy, meaning just because they didn't pick the pass off from Jimmy doesn't mean it wasn't a bad throw. Like, it wasn't a bad decision. Those aren't always going to be that way. So, yeah, I mean, you hope that in the first year they find a way to get him in a groove where he's not putting the ball in harm's way or forcing the issue, but he's hitting those deep passes that were never hit before that are open.
You know what's so tough about being a Niners quarterback? Pretty much everyone realizes it, is once the fans figure out that you're not the best of the best, that you're not top 5, maybe top 3,
you're out of here. Get out.
And so with Lance, like, that really means you got a couple years. You got a couple, and that's every quarterback on this team since Steve Young. That was Jeff Garcia. There was Alex 100%. Smith, Colin Kaepernick. Man, like once people kind of get the feeling for you, and you're not,
they turned on him real fast when they were cheering their ass off when he was shredding the Packers and he almost won that Super Bowl.
Yep.
All of that went out of the window when his deficiencies started to rise up, when there was other circumstances around him. So funny how that worked out.
So Trey, I mean, give Alex Smith the call, because life is easy for you right now. It's going to be hard. It's the life of a 49ers quarterback is as difficult as any position on any team in professional sports. I got to say, the expectations are unreal.
Yes.
Hey, you better be the next Steve Young. And even that, some people prefer Joe.
If Trey Lance got drafted by the Jaguars,
right,
everybody would give him all the leash he needs, 2, 3. Right. But because he was drafted by this prestigious franchise with literally the best quarterbacks who have ever played, Trey Lance is on the clock. And every quarterback, unfortunately, until the end of time, will be judged similarly.
Yeah, it's like being the point guard for the Lakers. It's like being the shortstop for the Yankees. Like, that comparison isn't escaping anyone.
So, right. Or it's like, the shooting guard for the Chicago Bulls. Yeah. Or, like
pretty much. So anyway, I think what Steve's saying is I would never really argue with Steve. I think he's extremely perceptive and smart and thoughtful. And just hearing him talk about it, it's like, I see what you mean. He never actually used Alex Smith's name. He actually compared him to Carson Wentz and Mitchell Trubisky. He said those two were guys who were their perfectionist nature pretty much undid them, and they were paralyzed by it. And he was like, that's an example of what Trey needs to not be. He was basically saying, don't be like Carson. And it's like, Carson's like, I'm replacing a Super Bowl winner. How do I do that? I have to be perfect. You can't be. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I got drafted ahead of Patrick Mahomes. I have to be perfect. You can't be, Mitchell. Just be yourself. Yeah.
Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah.
More quarterback wins than Deshaun Watson.
Hey, man, I mean, the guy won in Chicago. It's no easy feat.
Hey, quarterback wins, right? Quarterback wins.
For the sake. That guy has no confidence left, but I still like
him. Hey, look, I'll tell you this. At the Combine this year, you didn't even have to bring up his name, and people were talking about me. The league is super high on Mitchell Trubisky. They are, man. I don't know what it is, what he's done, but Jordan Elliott, my boy Jordan Elliott, Niners Nation, he talked with his defensive coordinator, Leslie Frazier. Leslie Frazier said, you're going to have the last laugh on Mitch, because I had a hell of a time trying to cover him because he was behind Josh Allen at Buffalo. Same.
I'm telling you, man, he was in a terrible situation. He got drafted by the worst offensive franchise in football.
And they made the playoffs.
Ahead of Mahomes.
And they made the playoffs. And they made the playoffs.
So now he's in a good franchise?
Oh, the other team that was in on Jimmy, I just came to me, the Lions.
You said that?
I said them, yeah. Hey, look. They've got Hard Knocks. Him and Goff can't battle. The ultimate quarterback wins group.
I would be so jealous of that. I want that action this offseason, man.
Oh, my God. I wish Hard Knocks was that camp, dude.
I know.
Oh, my God.
No, actually, it's good that it's not, because we're hard.
Because then that means they're just out of the playoffs every year.
They got to watch us if they want to know what's going on with the Niners. You got to come through us.
I can't wait to get to camp, man. We're gonna have
Jason's gonna be there, everyone.
Yep.
Just want y'all to know.
Tuesday,
Grinding like
Wednesday.
last year.
Tuesday, Wednesday, they're off on Thursday, right? Friday, Saturday, and then I think I'm there Monday and Tuesday. So I'm gonna be out on the 2nd.
If you had a full budget to work with, what would be your ideal Niners lineup around Trey?
Shit, man.
All the best players in the league.
You literally give Debo the bag. You get Kittle. You get Trent Williams. You get all the best offensive linemen. Give me Jonathan Taylor. Give me Derrick Henry to back him up. Give me Patrick Mahomes to back up Lance. Let's just go for it all, man. Let's just go for it all.
Just give him a center and a left guard and call it a day. Are they going to get Billy Price? What's up with that?
That's what they're saying. It's what the streets is saying. We'll see. He was on the Bengals last year. We'll see. I really think they do like Brendel, man. He's the leader in the clubhouse right now, but we're gonna see. I have concerns, just like I have concerns with many positions on this team going forward. But the one thing that's giving me a little bit of confidence in Brendel is that Kyle Shanahan went out of his way to say something nice about him in public. He never says anything nice about anybody. So I was like, man, he really believes in him.
Daniel Brunskill. So, I mean, they haven't shown the ability to like develop stud offensive linemen, but they have shown the ability to like develop solid starters. So
that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I was going to say they get value, right? Like, think about it. Like, Brunskill's not like a world beater at right guard, but you got him from the USFL, and he starts every single game. He's solid. Like,
and
that's value.
Like, isn't a top 10 pick, but he's solid starting right tackle.
Exactly.
Right.
There we go. You're starting to come along now. Here we go.
Yeah. No, I have to admit that, like, there are way worse right tackles than Mike McGlinchey. Like, the guy
100%.
100%.
100%. But 49er fans either wanted Derwin James. They're upset with the 9th pick. Again, it's not McGlinchey's fault.
Frankly. Johnny Robinson says, are you guys as frustrated as some of us fans when the sports talking heads talk about Lance like he has no accuracy when this is actually Jimmy G? Yeah. And what's interesting, too, is Steve was like, he didn't necessarily say the accuracy. He says the delivery. And he says it's a work in progress, which, I mean, that's what he worked on all offseason. That's fair. But, I mean, just having a quick release and a pretty delivery doesn't necessarily mean you're accurate. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo has terrible mechanics. His footwork, he doesn't set his feet, but he's got a quick delivery.
So, look, I would attribute it to basketball. Reggie Miller didn't have the most beautiful shot. That shit went in, though.
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't care like what it looks like. You could have the most beautiful shot. It's like when you're playing pickup, right? It's the guy, he's got the best shot. It looks beautiful, all form. It's clanked. The guy's going like this and throwing it up and it's going in. I don't give a shit. Yeah. Catch the ball and let somebody else catch it.
Sean says, I compared Lance to Kaepernick with more football intelligence and way better work ethic. You know, Kaepernick, something that he did really well that he didn't get credit for was protect the football. I think he has the second lowest interception rate ever after Aaron Rodgers. There are differences in their athletic profile, but Kaepernick was a good game manager. He actually was.
16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions in his final year when they started Jeremy Curley, the Smelter, Vance McDonald, Sean Drone. Come on, man. Quentin Patton, right? Like, is that like, come on, man. Like,
terrible.
Yeah. No, it's not that. It's just, again, look. Did Cap's deficiencies show towards the end? They did. But there is no sort of way that you're going to convince me that not only was the coaching bad, but you look at that roster around him, man, like, come on, man. What was the guy supposed to do? 16 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, though. That sounds pretty good.
He was actually pretty good. I mean, his numbers went down as he was in an SF, but the same thing is happening with Lamar Jackson right now. I think there's a little bit of the Greg Roman effect with Kaepernick, and then he went from Roman to Jeep Chris to Chip Kelly, who I actually thought, you know, if Kyle was ambitious. Now, there was a lot of reasons to get rid of Cap in 2017 if you're trying to create a new culture in that locker room. I get it. But I think Kyle and Cap in 2017 could have won some games, man. I mean,
roll with Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, right. I'm just saying, like, kind of funny. They come full circle and you get a guy who's quite similar to Cap. You get your own Kaepernick.
Right.
Yeah.
I just think Kyle was like, he didn't have a problem with what Cap was standing for. He just didn't want that in his locker room.
And I get that. I get it. Still, though, I think just from a purely football standpoint, it could have worked.
Hell yeah,
it could have worked. He's smart enough.
You run what you're about to run with Lance. You're gonna see a ton more pistol now. A little bit more to what you saw with RG3. You run those same things. You get those defined reads for him, like the same thing you do for Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't understand. He would have never it would never work. What are you talking about? Like all of those things that has been done for other quarterbacks, all those gimme throws that like Nick Mullins hit, that CJ Beathard hit. Cap would have hit those. Like, don't get it twisted. Again, I don't think
like the Alex Smith offense, which is very much like the Jimmy offense, and he ran the Robert Griffin offense, so he really would have fit.
And I don't think the coach had a problem with what he was standing for. He just was, when he's taking over the culture, he just didn't want that in there. That's it. I think more than anything.
Yeah, I think
because I don't want people to start thinking that Kyle is like, well, Kyle doesn't stand for that. It's not that. Is that, he just didn't want to have that when he first came in, I believe.
The way I think most football coaches look at it, and they may not say it publicly, is that like, look, it's hard enough to get 53 dudes pulling one direction. And you know what I mean? Like, what my job is to put football first and to have all 53 guys rally around a cause, which is winning. And I think some football coaches feel like, politics get in the way. And no matter what the cause is, what side you're on. It's just politics are divisive. They're divisive. They end up getting half the people on one side, half the people on the other side. That's the way it is. So maybe I just think that's how a football coach thinks. I could be wrong. I'm not a football coach. I'm just a sweaty blogger. I'm sweaty.
You're not that sweaty, man. Stop it. I would have loved Cap over there. Yeah, Dan Silio. That guy sweats a lot. I would have loved Cap over there, man. I think they would have won many more games than they would have, and that would have been a nice little bridge to whoever it is that they would have. I mean, whether it be Kirk, whatever it is.
Let me ask you a question before we leave. Who had a better tenure? Who's a better quarterback? Who's a better 49ers quarterback, Cap or Jimmy?
Oh, shit. All right. Jimmy wins regular season games, and there was a defense around him and a good coach. Cap won regular season games with a defense and a good coach, but he absolutely dominated some playoff games, and Jimmy never did that.
I'll take Cap. Thanks.
I mean, the Green Bay game, right? The Green Bay game, he destroyed Aaron Rodgers. He didn't just play in the game against Aaron Rodgers and his team won, like this has happened in this divisional. The Atlanta comeback in the NFC Championship, him and Frank Gore. Grant, why you haven't rolled the goal?
I'll switch it up. I'm sorry. I like the black one.
But the Atlanta game, if Jimmy Garoppolo with that team was down to that Ravens team, there's no way that it even comes down to that end right there. I mean, he gave them fits at the end of that game, man. Give me Cap in those big moments, man. And he was on the doorstep of knocking Seattle out, the doorstep of it. And he made some plays in that game, some of the best throws I've ever seen. In the playoffs, give me Cap, man, when it mattered.
I think there was a 2-year stretch where he might have been the best athlete in the league. I mean, what he did to that Green Bay defense repeatedly was he embarrassed defenses, kind of the way Debo did. I think people forget Kaepernick before he had anything to say. Kaepernick when he was just a football player and that's all he cared about. Dude was on another level. He just talk about Jimmy beating Aaron Rodgers. Like Kaepernick would beat Aaron Rodgers.
Beat Cam in Carolina.
Yeah.
Those again, we were in a space and somebody said something and this is how funny it was. Because we were talking about Lamar Jackson, and he said, I don't care about regular season stats if you win when it's time to win. And he was caping for Jimmy. And then I'm like, then why don't we have a ring? And then I said, well, he's like, I wanted Aaron Rodgers. And I was like, talk about stats during the regular season and not winning. Why do you want Aaron Rodgers then at that point? Like, you see how stupid that distinction is? But Cap was the reason. Because remember, that defense was great during the year, but they gave up 27, 30 points in the playoffs because Justin Smith was hurt.
That's true.
They were, and the secondary was giving out. So it wasn't like, they gave up 10 and Cap scored 13. No. Cap had to put up 41 to knock out the Packers, like Aaron Rodgers.
And they lost at the end of the Super Bowl, but the offense scored a lot of points. And
31 or something like that. Yeah.